How are you?
Excellent. Excellent.
I
I'm in
um I,
California and it's raining, so I am depressed. I am not myself. It's a weird world with wet stuff coming out of the sky.
I'm in Ohio where it's going to be gray for the next 6 months. So, pardon
So
me if
you
I
have
don't
no
go.
pity. You have no pity.
I have no pity.
No, I
um,
understand.
my daughter said, "Don't put that poster up behind you when you do this interview." But I said, "I've had the poster for 40 years, and if there's any better time to put this up, I can't think of one." So, I hope I'm not embarrassing myself or making you feel uncomfortable with the
No, that's
police
that's
poster in
kind
the
of
background.
you. I never seen that one. You got a rare one there.
Yeah, yeah,
Now this book that I'm busy plugging is already sold out. So
I know.
hey, how about them Lakers? Uh,
Yeah, right. I mean that's great. That's great news for you. Is that the kind of thing that you look into represses and making more copies available, or is it a limited
Well, they're
edition?
they're they're into a reprint, which means that I can fix some errors, um, which is fortunate.
Yes.
There's a few mistakes in there. I mean, no
Yeah.
matter how many times you proofread something, there's always more.
Of course. Of course. I don't understand the business part of music business, and so you released a lot of material this year. A couple police records, the Clark Kent reissue stuff, the book. Was that all planned to come out this year, or was it just a lucky thing that it all
Well,
came out one year?
it kind of all came out this year, sort of to clear the decks, actually, for what I'm doing now, which is my next mission, entirely unrelated to the police or anything in my past. It's all forward.
Yeah.
I've, last summer I had an opera go up in Italy. The summer before that, a new opera go up in Germany. So I'm very confident that I'm moving forward, which makes me very relaxed about looking backwards over my shoulder. I would be scared looking over my shoulder if I wasn't making forward progress. But having done all that, I've been playing this police show, deranged for orchestra, for 2 years now. Pretty much done with that. I've got some more dates this summer in Italy. I haven't quite finished with Italy on that, with Europe on that. But I'm now on my next mission, which involves no blonde heads, just gray hair.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what do you find more challenging? Is it the stuff that you do for the orchestra, or is it taking songs that you've lived with for 40 years and reimagining them?
The reimagining part is very easy because I'm working with not only my own wild inspiration and desecration, but also a lot of improvisations that the three of us did on stage and aren't on any records.
Yeah,
So um, the the derangements parts come from these extrapolations done both in the studio and on stage, and also they come from my use of this material as a score for my film. Um, and I had to cut the music up to make it fit the movie, and I wanted to use police material that was new, and so that's what got me into this process. And once the scalpel came out, the orgy began.
yes, and
But the hard part, actually, that's the easy part. The hard part is the orchestration. Now I'm pretty much self-taught. 20 years as a film composer. I had an involuntary education in orchestra, but I did finally, eventually, um, hire a teacher from USC to come over here and kick my ass every Friday and teach me the actual correct spelling of the articulations, the limitations of, and strengths of the different instruments in the different choirs. I mean, I sort of knew all this because I've been working with orchestras in film, but I've had other people orchestrate, and then I look at what they've done and I put a lot of pencil on it and I update it. So finally, I formalized my education in orchestration, and I do it myself now.
so are you still learning, or do you feel like you're in a good
Oh yeah,
space?
it's a very very complex subject, and I'm always learning. Uh, and I still send my scores for proofreading, and I'm learning all the time. It is huge, and that's the fun part about it. Actually, is there's always cool stuff. I've got Stravinsky, Aaron Copeland, Debussy, Ravel scores over here, which I refer to not for the music but for the orchestration.
Yeah,
How does they get that boom? And I can find it somewhere on those scores are it's he has the harp mixed in there. You can't really hear it, but it provides a certain weight to that crescendo and that glissando. So I I learned, and this is how Stravinsky learned, is by studying Mozart.
I love that. I heard a an interviewer. I heard somebody talking on a YouTube video once that said, "There's always going to be some kid discovering the Beatles for the first time today, and for them, it's brand new music." And
Yeah.
I think it was in reference in like the publicity cycle, and like why can't you review Sergeant Pepper's today if it's the first time you've heard it? You know, getting out of that publicity cycle. What you're talking about, the classical music, I mean, that stuff is hundreds of years old, and people are hearing it for the very first time. It's just amazing how it's brand new and exciting to people so late. Like you think that it would have either lost people lost interest in it or wouldn't have been listening to it, but it's just
Well, the
amazing. And
Beatles
I'm
themselves have confirmed to me, two of them that I've talked to who are still alive, both confirm that, and I'm sure this is true of the Stones, and it's certainly true of the Police. The music was made as fast food to be
yeah
consumed right away and forgotten, and we'll give you another one tomorrow. The Beatles never expected to be taught in schools. Um, I think it happened around the year 2000 when that generation came of age and they just wanted to go back to the originals that all the bands they were listening to, I'm not going to mention any names, but were derivative. And they went back to the originals, and smart kids, they could discern the difference between the originals and the derivatives. But what you say about discovering it for the first time, a couple things. First of all, there are YouTube clips or Instagram clips of people playing, Stairway to Heaven, some black kid, culturally far removed from growing up with Led Zeppelin the way I did, experiencing it for the first time, and he reviews it and gives his thoughts, which are very interesting, actually.
yeah
But there's something that kid can't appreciate, and which I also can't appreciate when I look at Mozart, or my sons can't appreciate when they look at Jimi Hendrix, was how surprising it was.
yeah
You listen to Jimi Hendrix today and say, yeah, well, Eddie Van Halen can do that 10 times over. What you can't get is the sense of surprise of the guy who did it first. Stravinsky blew everybody's minds, still blows mine, and Mozart as well. But we can't appreciate how surprising it was because we've heard all of the derivatives, we've heard it, it's part of the mainstream, it's part of the zeitgeist now. So that
yeah
sense of wonder, of discovery, you got to go to a new artist who's changing the rules of everything. You got to go to Jacob Collier to be surprised. And by the way, he's probably out of date by now. That's been 20 minutes since he showed up.
yeah. And it's funny you mentioned like YouTube and TikTok. I mean, even how many kids are out there playing Eddie Van Halen riffs almost as if it's second nature on YouTube. But to your point, it's not original anymore. So it's cool that they can do it. They do it very technically and not with the feeling and not with in the moment kind of thing. But it's just
Without the
amazing.
discovery.
Yeah,
Eddie
yeah,
was discovering. Jimi Hendrix and Mozart and Stravinsky were discovering as
yeah.
they created rather than recreating.
So in the work that you do, I listened to an interview you did, and you talked about quantity produces quality. So do you have a drawer full of stuff that you can kind of go back to when you need something? Are
Yes, I
you
do.
always kind of saving stuff?
Yeah, I save stuff. Not because I'm afraid of running out of ideas. I've always got new ideas. I'm never short of. I'm blessed and very thankful that I just turn on the tap and music comes out. That doesn't mean to say it's any good or that anyone else will like it, but
Sure.
I'm never stuck for an idea. I know musicians who are great musicians, who are great players, but this summer when I have some time, I'm going to write a concerto. No, you're not, because you didn't get that gene. If you were going to write a concerto this summer, you would have already written it. By the time
Right.
you get to summer, if you're a composer, if you got that composing gene, you would have written 10. That doesn't mean that they're good or that many people will love them. It's just a gene that produces new melody all the time. And I'm never short for an idea. But when I'm under pressure and I'm working it, just these little 3-note tricks come out, bass lines come out, chord progressions, this chord to that chord to that chord. Um, that just have a certain brilliance, and I want to hear them again. I want to, that happened and went by so fast in the score of The Equalizer or in Spyro or in Dead Like Me. I want to hear it again. I want to take that and make something big out of it. So when I'm working on a big major work like an opera or a concerto, um, I do reach back into my cookie jar.
And I think maybe what you just said. Are you ever surprised by what you pull out? Like when I write album reviews, I'm a procrastinator and I wait until the last minute and I submit them right at deadline. And I spend all night writing them, and then the magazine it
That's a
takes about
mystery to me.
it take yeah.
I feel your pain, and I will pray for you to work otherwise. But me, I'm the opposite of a
Okay.
procrastinator.
Okay. I was gonna say because then 3 months later the magazine comes out and I start reading the reviews and like I almost don't remember writing them. So
Really?
it's almost like reading my own stuff for the first time. It's kind of weird, but it
Well,
sounds
do
like
you
you're
like it? Do you like it? Do you say, "Wow, that's not bad. I kind of nailed that."
most of the time. Every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds like I wrote it at 3 in the morning. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So the cookie jar,
Well, I'm
it's still,
glad you still like your material when you come back to it.
yeah, yeah. The cookie jar is a little bit metaphorical, but also you probably have like a hard drive full of stuff. And I know that the police diaries came from stuff that you were diary, like actual physical diaries.
Yeah, I
Do
don't
you,
throw things away.
is it only stuff that you've like, is it diaries and set list and backstage passes, or do you keep like articles written about you and posters like behind me and magazine stuff, or is it just stuff that you've sort of created?
I do have stuff, but I stopped collecting it a long time ago. What I keep is intellectual property: my thoughts, my notes, my dates, facts and figures, posters, T-shirts. My kids got them all. I don't, they it's just merch. I cut all my instruments. I still got my first guitar. I don't still have my first drum set.
Really?
I bequeathed it. It was just I'd lost it.
Okay.
It was in the bass player in Curved Air called me up 20 years, 30 years longer, 50 years later and said, "Oh, by the way, I've got this baby blue pearl Premier drum set in my garage. Is that yours?" And I go, "Oh my God, I hadn't even thought. I've been wondering what happened to that." Um, and yes, it was. And so I called my son, and this is in England, and I told him that I, one of my sons is the musical. When I said, Jordan, as the musical son of the family, I bequeath my drum set to you. I think you're the child that have it. And he wrote back to me. He says, "Dad, my heart is heavy with joy. This great honor."
So at least,
Basically, I haven't got room for a fucking drum set. I've already got your other drum set.
yeah.
Um, and so I gave it to a guy in Italy who's been the head of my fan club just voluntarily for ever and ever and ever and ever. And so I gave it to him. And the difference between a guitar and a drum set is a guitar. I got every guitar I ever owned. It's sitting right there, and
Yeah.
I play them and I love them. Drums just take up too much space unless it's set up. It's just a blob of junk, and they're in a place where they will be more loved and appreciated than in my storage unit.
Sure.
But everything else I've still got.
I have to believe that some of your stuff is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah, they got a drum set.
Yeah. Just one that you were one that
One of the drum sets that I
one of the
played.
many ones.
I had three identical drum sets that were played. I got the European kit, the American kit, and then another one for parts or something. I don't know.
Yeah, with your legacy of police work, I have to imagine it maybe is a daily occurrence, maybe a weekly occurrence where you're just out and about and watching TV, or you're out in the car, or you're at a store or somewhere, and you hear a police song. Does it still give you a little tinge of excitement, like, "Hey, I did that"?
Well, I don't even leave the house once a week. But when I do, occasionally I hear a police song, and I like it.
Yeah,
It's a little bit humbling because I've been playing concerts with this material with
yeah.
deranged for orchestra, and I think it's pretty darn cool. But if I'm driving along in the car and a police tone comes on, and I hear the original version with those three scumbags. That's even cooler. And
Oh,
I
sure.
have to fess up that as clever as I think I am, I go back to the original, and just like those kids in 2000, the original doesn't suck.
Yeah. So I was reading your bio that came out about 15 years ago, I think, and
Yeah, I've
you
got a
talk
new one.
besides a diary, or
Oh,
the
the
diary.
diary is a new one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the word deranged showed up there. I mean, so is that a word that you've been sticking with your head and when wanting to put something out using the deranged name?
Well, when I cut the music up for my film, I got carried away and created a bunch of tracks, which were deranged. They were
Yeah.
unarranged. They were rearranged, and I just like the word deranged.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I started using it then. The mission was nixed by my two colleagues with, understandably.
Sure.
What? Stewart's over in the studio somewhere remaking our hits? Are you kidding me? What is he insane? For my movie, okay, they get it. It scores a movie, but I'd love to release. One day we will release that as a record. My derangements with the three guys from which my orchestral versions derive.
Yes.
They're pretty darn cool, if I say so myself. It's still the Police. It's Andy on guitar. That's him doing what Andy does. That's Sting with amazing extrapolations on vocals and bass, new bass lines from Sting that you've never heard before. Pretty darn cool.
I saw the reunion tour, and even you were doing it a little bit then too, right? Like songs would start, and I'd be like, "What song is this?" Oh, I know what this song is. Like it would take me a second. It sounded like you were mixing arrangements a little bit on the reunion tour as well with some of the songs.
Yes, we did do a little bit of that. And
Yeah,
it's when I did my derangements, I was wondering whether and when we did the Police reunion tour, we changed things a little. Where the worry is, are they going to come after us with pitchforks for messing with the sacraments?
yes, yes. So you mentioned like you're pretty much a homebody. Is it all music all the
I'm a
time, or
studio body.
studio body? Uh,
I never leave this room.
it, w- any downtime? Anything you do outside that?
This is my downtime.
You're,
It's like they call it work, but it really is what I'd rather be doing
yeah,
than almost anything else.
yeah. And
It's the most fun you can have with your clothes on.
that sounds good to me. I got two more. So I got to interview Andy on my birthday in
Uh
July.
huh.
This is close to Christmas, so you've sort of like my birthday and
Well,
Christmas are
Andy's
amazing
birthday is
talking.
close to Christmas. My birthday is in July, so you got it fast
That's
backwards
amazing,
there.
amazing. I'm going to ask you two questions that I ask him, and if these will kind of be the wrap up questions. When the Police came to an end, um, did were there any vacancies in any band? Did anybody reach out to you and say, "Hey, you want to come join our band?" Or any artists say, "We're going to start something up, and we want you to be part of"?
Well, there was the Doors, who invited me to join them, and it was a funny thing where I couldn't believe it. They're my thing, like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you were born, kids these days when they bust out the Foo Fighters were happening for them. The Foo Fighters is the thing. For me, my age group, the Doors were right there, along with Jimi Hendrix and Cream and so on.
yeah.
And so to get a call from the Doors was unbelievable. And I said very meekly, let's have should we have a jam and see if we're right for each other and everything. And just I was being super humble, and so we did. And we met up at SIR and we played together. And so Ray Manzaneri says, "So did we pass the audition?" That wasn't an I wasn't you were auditioning me, not the other way around. Jesus Christ, weird that they saw it from that point of view.
Yeah,
Uh, but I wasn't right for them. We enjoyed the jam. I was transported playing those songs with Robbie and Ray. I couldn't believe that I was really doing that.
sure.
But I was the wrong guy. I'm not. I am no John Densmore. He does trance, and he's one of my big influences. But I'm not that guy. He's actually a friend of mine now. And I do explosion. Uh, it wasn't the Doors with me. It was kind of fell between two stools, and so we parted company. Um, but yes, that's as far as I know. I mean, I get calls every day from somebody in Argentina saying, "Hey, I'd love you to play on my album."
Yeah, yeah. Andy also said that you guys do keep in touch. He said,
Oh yeah.
I mean, part of it is because of the business part of it. And I asked him, and I'll ask you, when Sting and Andy create new material, whether it's writing or music or anything, are you the first person to run out and check it out, or do you get to it when you get to it, or do you not listen or pay attention to like the creative stuff
I
that they're
do
doing?
pay attention. I'm not the first person to rush out. I got other fish to fry, but I am very interested in my two colleagues.
Yeah,
Sting is still one of my favorite songwriters, and on one hand, if I would, I don't really. If I was there, I would do it differently. But on the other hand, Sting's pretty good at arranging. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need me to. force him to make compromises, and he doesn't need collaboration. And so I'm a fan. And I really like what he's done with it. I probably wouldn't have been capable of keeping the discipline to fulfill his vision.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I am very interested in both of them. Andy is also an interesting artist, and I'm still a big fan of him too.
Yeah.
I don't live for their next album necessarily, but I am absolutely curious about what they're up to.
That's awesome. I think you already mentioned 2024. Do you already have a full plate?
I do. I have an extremely full plate. Mostly composing. I was out playing shows the last couple of years.
Right.
Mostly I'm in here. I've got a gigantic opera to write and another album that I'm writing before I even get to that. But I'm kind of superstitious about talking about things till they come to fruition.
Well, again, like, it's been a dream and honor, and I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you have great holidays.
Great. Have a great holiday yourself, and thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. All right. Goodbye.
Sure thing. Bye.